Hi, this is Pete Monfre, and this is your moment of clarity. So I'm here today with my friend Mel Cohen, and Mel is an amazing guy. I'd say that Mel is a Renaissance man.
I'm a licensed certified financial planner and own a tax and financial services firm, along with my book publishing consulting firm.
So Mel is the founder and managing partner of Inspired Authors Press. He's an internationally recognized publishing, book marketing, book sales, and author consultant. And he has done a lot of work over many years in this area, and he is my go-to guy for any kind of book marketing. I heard a stat that says 83% of people think that they have a book in them. Is that true?
That's a very accurate statistic.
It is. So
Yeah.
does 83% actually have a book in them?
Actually, the last survey at the Book Expo, it was close to 90% that
Wow.
either wrote a book, wanted to write a book, or have plans to write a book. So you're right on as far as your number.
Everybody has a story to tell, right?
Yep.
And so you really help people do that, and not just saying, hey, write your book. You work with them to figure out how to tell that story and how to make that into a book, and then how to make that book successful.
Yeah. One of the big things that's going on in the industry is the consolidation of the major publishers. So it's almost impossible today to get a publishing contract. You need a literary agent. It can take you 6 months to a year. You can spend thousands of dollars and still not be any further along. So the alternative to that is self-publishing. And that's what I do. So that's why my business is booming, because of the lack of publishing contracts today being given out. So people are contacting me. And I also work with a lot of small publishers to mid-sized publishers that need marketing advice. They may have a line of books that have done well at one point and have stopped doing well. And I will analyze that for them, as well as analyze their Amazon page and convert a book to Kindle if they don't have an ebook. And so I work with publishers, individual authors, and would-be authors. I turn writers into authors.
For our audience, moment of clarity, we have about almost 5,000 subscribers, and they're really, we cover marketing topics. And what I'm fascinated by is the thought leadership strategy, the way to produce a book. Tell us about how people leverage these self-published books. Let's say you're a professional services, you're a consultant, you're a thought leader. How does that work?
Anybody that's in business, in any type of business that's self-employed, or they're an employee that want to enhance their career, they need to write a book.
They need to write a book. So it's not.
They need to write a book.
Okay.
The book will set you so far apart from your competitors, from your peers. It'll give you recognition well beyond your means. Let me give you an example of the book that I wrote. I wrote a book in 1991 called The Secret of the Pros: How to Become a Baseball Card Dealer. And it was at the height of the trading card market. And my goal when I wrote the book was not necessarily making money from the book. It was to position me as an expert in the trading card industry. And by being recognized as an expert, the word went out to several Philadelphia law firms. And I was an expert witness in court several times. And each time our side won. And in 6 years after the book came out, when the trading card industry really faded, I got a call from a firm, class action lawsuit firm. It happened to be the largest class action firm in the country at the time. And it was the first class action lawsuit against trading card companies.
What did they say? It's a $10 business card, something like that?
Yeah.
And in your case, the work, it lasted, it had an impact years
after.
Oh, yeah, tell us more.
And this all started before Amazon was even created, if you can even imagine that.
And what did the book do to make that happen? I mean, the book gave you a ton of credibility and established you as an expert in your field, right?
It did.
Is that the primary, I mean, let's say somebody writes a book, it's a great book, but the goal isn't to sell 100 million copies, is it? under this scenario.
Well, it can certainly you'll make money. Keep in mind too,
Can
if
be
you
part of it.
a publisher, you'll make anywhere maybe $1.50, $1.80 a book. They expect you to help market the book. They want to get their investments back. But if you self-publish a book at the same retail, you're not only making that $1.50 or $1.80 a book, but you're making the $5 or $6 a book that the publisher just made. Mm-hmm. Now, your risk is, of course, spending the money to produce the book that would be paid for by a publisher. But if you produce a good book, your profit potential is well more as a self-published author. Also, too, in my book, it was $12.95 retail. It cost 80 cents to print. So when I spoke at shows, that was a tremendous margin to be selling, hundreds of books at a time, with that kind of margin to have go in my pocket.
So do people have to have a complete book to come to you?
Usually I work from the manuscript on, but because I'm handling the marketing and writing a marketing plan, I'm usually their lead editor. So I'm correcting their book or rewriting their book or rewriting portions of their book with a marketing goal in mind. So, and the author always has the final yes or no on anything that I edit. So if they don't like one of my edits, they can actually reject it and I use track changes
right.
to send it back to them. And the process runs about 3 months from beginning to end. But I'm working from, if it's not a completed manuscript, at least several chapters, and then I'll edit along the way, and I'll also give them some tips on to how to improve their writing as they move forward.
Awesome. So they don't have to agonize over their manuscript. It needs to be, have beginning, middle, and end, and have some structure. Or does it? I mean, and again, I could be misunderstanding, but if someone comes to you and they say, "Hey, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to hire Mel," but they don't have anything written, that's not the time yet, is it?
No,
I didn't think so.
Yeah. They want the format of what the book's going to be like. They want an idea. Is it going to? You want a 150-page book? You want a 200-page book? And the type of book, is it going to be written in the first person, the third person?
Right.
It's the how-to book. And one of the things that I'll do, if they don't have a title and a subtitle, I will help create one that's going to be SEO friendly.
Sure.
So we can get a lot of organic searches in helping them in the marketing of their own book. Top to bottom, when somebody retains me, is 90 days. You get 3 full months of unlimited access. So, and I move very, very quickly. I've actually produced a best-selling book in 5 weeks that was for a major event for a military nonprofit about 5 years ago. They needed the book for their event. It's an annual fundraiser, and he was real slow. The manuscript was not even 3/4 done at the time, and we still managed to get the books delivered the day before the event that they could use to.
Just to reiterate, you don't want people to get too far down the road, because that means you're going to backtrack a lot. Mm-hmm. One thing is, how do you deal with that ego aspect of things where I'm going to guess that you sometimes have to tell people that they need to change their work pretty significantly.
Yeah, it's very, very rarely will I get what's called a bad book or a bad manuscript. It might be weak in the form of style, but it's the points that they want to get. You want to teach. People want to learn something, discover something. You solve a pain point for them, and if you can do those things on a teaching or solving a problem that they have, then you're going to have a book that's going to sell.
Solving a problem, right? So, I mean, this is marketing 101, isn't it? What problem do you solve, and for whom, in book form, makes you more credible, can be profitable if you do it right. And I would say, so we talked at the beginning about what it was like before Amazon, I don't remember really, but I know there was a time, because I lived through it also, I think there's more options than ever now, and there's more ways to leverage it than ever. And even if you don't do all the whole palette of things, if you're a professional trying to establish themselves as a thought leader, you're going to do some speaking, you should have a book. And I love that you said, you know what, it's not a nice to have, you need a book.
Right. Keep in mind, too, when you write a book, you're going to create content. You're going to create anywhere from 40 to 60,000 words of content. And what you can do now between podcasts, between ebooks, that we've actually broken down ebooks into chapters where I just did a book called The Neurological Exam, written by a professor emeritus at a medical school. And people don't necessarily need to buy a $55 book, but they may want one chapter. So you can, the book may be $55, but you can buy a chapter for $8. And if there's 20 chapters in the book and you're selling chapters one at a time, that's another way to make money. So they created content once. So between podcasts, personal appearances, ebooks selling as a chapter, being paid to speak at medical conferences, you've created something once, but you're having a revenue stream that covers several different areas.
So how can people get a hold of you? We'll put up Mel's a link to Mel and what he does. But what's the best way what is your preference for people to reach out?
They can just email me at mel@inspiredauthorpress.com. The website is inspiredauthorpress.com. They can check me out on the website. But I've produced well over 2 million books in over 50 languages, and I've produced licensing agreements. And just to take a minute on licensing agreements.
Please, yeah. Tell us about licensing agreements.
Whoa. You've created a book, and the book is a good business book. So somebody in France or Germany wants that book. When you go onto Kindle, you're immediately available in 15 different countries. Some of them will speak English and others will not. So somebody will approach you as a result of that book and say, look, I want to put this book in a French edition, or I want to put this book in a German edition. So licensing is the same as taking money out of air. So you've already created the book, done the work. They're going to do the translation. They're going to do the sales. They're going to do the marketing. And for the next 5 to 7 years, you're going to get a 10 to 12% royalty on all of their sales and all of their work. It's a great way to create mailbox money for periods of 5 to 7 years at a time. And each time you do that, you have several books. That's a very, very nice revenue stream. One of the main things I want to point is a book has a perceived value. You give away somebody, even if it's a nice pen and it costs you $3, or you give them a calendar, or you give them some little doodad, that's one thing. But if you give somebody a book, that's got a strong perceived value. That's just not going to be tossed. That's going to be read for somebody to learn something out of it.
Right.
And that perceived value, your cost on that perceived value may be 10% of what that perceived value is. So it's a very economical way to give client appreciation, not only for sales, but to give somebody a present. And just picture going to a conference where somebody hands you, you're all 3 people are pitching the same person. One hands a nice business card, another hands a nice firm brochure, and then you hand them, this is the book that I wrote.
Right. The throwaway factor back in the agency days, that was almost a measurement of, I still have books that people have given me 10 years ago that I can't throw them away.
Yep.
And some of them aren't that great. But I do think, I think with the licensing, a lot of this comes back to, you need to have a relevant work. It needs to be put together the right way, and it needs to be marketed in the right way. And you're a guy that really understands that entire industry and those systems. And you're an artist as well. There's an art part of this. And so I've really enjoyed, talking to you today, and I really appreciate you coming out and sharing what you do. And I hope that if you're out there and you're thinking about writing a book, contact my friend Mel. I think it'll be awesome.